Welcome to the Live Tuesday call. This is Jeff St Laurent. I just had a great conversation with the handful of people that have called in today and got some good questions around the topic, and that's all about group coaching. So we're going to just talk about group coaching today and give you a feel for kind of, there's a lot of variables that go into it. So obviously I can't get super specific for you and what you're offering, but what I can do is give you some guidelines and some thoughts, and based on some of my experiences that I've done over the years as well, to kind of get you off on the right foot, so you can start, using the benefits and experiencing the benefits of group, not only just in terms of how you can benefit people in their results with your clients, but also the benefits from getting paid standpoint, because we're doing a business and we want to get paid, and it's a great way to leverage your income when you do things in groups as well. So those are the things that we're going to talk about. Before we get rolling, I do record all these calls and I post them at the end of the week in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. So if you check out sellingcoaching.com, go to my university. That's going to give you a great resource there for you. Got a lot of recordings there. Use the search feature, because there's a lot. So find something that's specific to where you're at. I'm always a big fan of not just listening to stuff, but finding out where am I at right now, what do I need right now, and then finding that specific information. Also, right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, I have a fantastic resource that I want you to start with, which is the Ultimate Startup Guide for Coaches. And so if you just enter your name and email there, you'll see where I kind of bribe you with my dog. That's my marketing, if you will, my humor in my marketing. But with that being said, it's a fantastic audio resource and a PDF. It's very detailed, so be ready to consume that. But that's a great start for you there. That's also going to put you in my email community, and I want you to be part of that, because not only do you get some great information from me on a weekly basis, but I also want you to start to see how I stay connected and build my community and with those people, which is what you need to be doing with your business as well. And then lastly, if any of the information here today, you need some specific help on it, or you're just at that place where you know you need some guidance with your business, I am available for one-on-one mentor coaching, where I can really help guide, move you forward, holding your hand with whatever you need to, but giving you the specific structure with everything. I love working with my one-on-one mentoring clients, and if this is something that you need, or it's like, I need to, I'm open to hearing a little bit more on how Jeff could help me, go to the Work With Me page at sellingcoaching.com. Go to the bottom and fill out that form. I'll follow up with you. We can create a relaxed conversation, and we can determine what's best and go from there. So with that being said, let's jump into the topic today, and it's all about group coaching. And group coaching it's a big topic, and honestly, there are so many variables to it that it oftentimes can be confusing. So what I'm hoping to do today is, even with all the questions that I got from the people that called in today, is I want to narrow it down to give you a direction so you can actually take action on it. Because what I find is when there's too many options, like most people get overwhelmed and they can't decide. And if they can't decide, they don't move forward, and that doesn't work. And so if you're going to have anyone signing up and enrolling in any of your group programs, you've obviously got to get it out there. So we need to get this moving on it. So the first thing I want to talk about before you decide to do a group program is just recognizing that, some people, especially when people come to me and they're mentoring with me, one of the first things, if they're saying like, oh, I want to do group stuff. And I'm like, great. We have to realize that the number one challenge of doing a group or an event for that matter, speaking engagement, workshop, whatever it is the number one challenge, which everyone has and will always be our biggest challenge, is putting people in the seats, right? It's enrolling people into our group program and signing them up, whether it's for free or for paid, right? So that's going to always be our biggest challenge. So in order to be able to have successful group programs, we need to have an audience. And those of you that are students of mine know that I always say is like, our number one job in our business is to build an audience. So if you want to do group programs, you've got to take a look at the first thing and say, well, who's my audience? And it's not just, do I have an audience, but based on the topic that I want to be presenting or that I'm going to be covering with this group program, do I have a relevant audience? Because it's one thing to have an audience, meaning when I mentor with my clients, one of the first things I'll say is, well, we're going to start off with somebody, so let's leverage the contacts you already have. Let's use our friends and family. So we can utilize those people, but depending on who you're helping with what specifically, or niche, if you will, I like to call it your headline, that might not be a relevant audience. Although it's great to start off with some people, and hopefully that will help spread the word And also when you start sending some emails or doing some things, it's nice to have it in front of somebody and getting some, feedback and support, which is nice, friends and family. But it might not be a relevant audience. So if you don't have a relevant audience, might I suggest you hold off or wait to do a group program until you've built your audience, and I'll give you a time frame of, let's say, 18 to 24 months. Let's just call it 2 years. And the reason I suggest that time frame is it gives you a good opportunity not only to build your audience, a relevant audience, but also gives you time to hone your message, to really understand just, well, what am I speaking about? What is my message? It doesn't mean that you don't know what it is right now. As I work with a lot of people, a lot of the coaches who are starting their business off, and even those that have been in it for a while, it doesn't mean that you don't know what you're talking about, but you just, as you start to speak your message, you start to see what people are responding to. Even when I, call it 4 years ago now or so, when I started helping coaches transition to a full-time business, well, I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I wanted to help them with. However, I didn't know what would be, of all my message, I didn't know what would be the most relevant. I didn't know what would be received, where they really needed it the most, even though I'd been through it on my own. But over the course of that first 2 years or so, that's when I really started to learn. I'm like, because even when I started off, I was really hammering the selling aspect of it, because that's ultimately where my passion was. It's like, I want to help coaches convert their leads into paying clients. That selling aspect of it, the qualifying, and then, the closing of it all. But what I realized is I'm speaking this message to them, and they don't even have any leads. They don't have any audience, right? So they have no one in front of them. They don't have an email list. They don't have a website up. They don't even know who they're helping with, what specifically. And I'm like, whoa, I'm way ahead of the game, and even the people that have been doing it for a while, they didn't have a lot of their structure set up. So I had to kind of rewind and realize, I'm like, wow, I need to help people with finding their target market and helping them set their email lists up, and that the foundational things, providing them with some structure, understand some of the marketing. And then now once we set all that stuff up, now I can start talking about the qualification part. So I have a group program, you can check it out at livesalesconversations.com, where I help coaches convert their leads into paying clients. That's an ongoing group program. It's like a monthly membership. That's the format I have for it. The format for it is where we meet on Zoom. It's a video platform, and then we communicate in between, and the resources are in a private Facebook group, and obviously only members can be a part of that group. But that's at livesalesconversations.com. But I didn't start that, or how about this? I started a group program probably a year and a half or 2 years into that place. But when I launched this transition, helping coaches transition to full-time business, when I launched that aspect of my business, I was about 2 years into that when I launched it, but I didn't even have that message yet, where it was helping coaches convert their leads into paying clients, right? I didn't have that yet because I didn't quite know what it was, but I didn't want to wait any longer. I wanted to get some type of group program going. But the reason I'm sharing this story is because even after about 2 years of doing it and feeling like I was pretty clear on my message, I still didn't know exactly where I was going with this group. And then probably about 2.5 years in, or 3 years in, that's when it was like, oh my God, this is what I've always wanted to do. I'm helping coaches convert their leads into paying clients. And that's what it is today. And it wasn't until that point where it really started growing. And it's at that point where I get a good, maybe 7 to 10 people at any one point as members of that group, which is it's a great, healthy way to go. I can grow it a little bit from there, but it's also a great graduate program for my clients. So I'm sharing that story, not just, obviously you can be aware of what I'm doing, but more importantly, so you can start to understand what my main message here is that give it a little bit of time before you just launch a group program. And what I suggest in the meantime is start doing that one-on-one coaching. And especially the reason for that is that when you do that one-on-one coaching, not only are you getting paid better, meaning, you can get paid well in a group program, but the challenge of it is, especially if you don't have an audience, is getting people in the seats. So the reality is, and I've done group programs with my clients earlier on, but again, and they're getting, let's call it a handful of people in their program, which is fantastic. Just the reality is, especially if you're starting off, and I don't know what your influence is in your circle of influence and also your audience is. Maybe you have some great connections. And usually I find, even just with your existing audience, even if it is, let's say, a friends and family or past networks, in your first few rounds of a group program, call it a 4 to 6 week program, let's say, you could probably fill the seats with 5-6 people or so. But the challenge will be after that, if you're doing it continually, once you, if you will, run through those people, so to speak, yeah, you'll get a few other referrals from that. But usually I find with my clients that the third or fourth go around, it gets increasingly more challenging to fill the seats because their audience hasn't necessarily grown proportionally from there. They just leverage their existing contacts to get into their, first group programs, which again is definitely a viable way to go. But I'm just giving you kind of my best recommendation for a strategy before you do group programs. So this whole education today isn't about discouraging you from doing a group program. It's just kind of the realities of it and building your audience before you just go ahead and run a group program. Because what I don't want you to run into is the challenge is, okay, I'm all excited, I'm going to do this new group program, and then you can't get anyone to sign up, or you only get 2 or 3 people to sign up, which again isn't a bad thing if you only got 2 or 3 people, except for the only thing is if you're expecting it to be, oh my God, I'm going to get 30 people to sign up for this whatever $300 program. Odds are, unless you've got a great audience and you're really working those connections and those leads, you're not going to get that. So you're not going to get, if you will, the income benefits initially. The initial benefits of doing it, let's say before you've got more of an audience, are going to be more in the perspective of, let's say, getting in touch with some people, working with them in a group coaching program, developing some content, trialing that content, and see how it goes. Hopefully maybe converting some of those people to paying clients, which is always a great offshoot of what a group program can offer as well. And then from there, you could have, if you like the end of the course and you like the content that's been delivered in that course, and you've recorded everything, you could now have a downloadable course that you could sell without any further work from there, assuming you like the course and went over well. So those are some of the advantages of doing it earlier on, as opposed to waiting. And so I'm not going to say one's better than the other. I'm just going to giving you the pros and cons of doing it right off with no audience and or waiting until you have an audience. So with that being said, when it comes to whatever you decide with that process, whatever you want to do in terms of your program, you've got to know who you target. One of the questions when we came into today was, well, who do I target with this? Well, that's a great question, because if we don't know who we're targeting, odds are it's going to be more challenging more in terms of filling the seats. And I said that's always our biggest challenge, is filling the seats. So we've got to go back to our headline is helping who with what specifically. People will call it a niche. But again, I help coaches transition to a full-time business. What is your phrase that fills in helping who with what specifically? You've got to know what that is. And if you don't know what it is on a larger level, maybe it's like, well, what do you want to do for this course? You've got to, who is this course helping and what is this course helping them with specifically? You've got to know that, because here's the thing. If you're too general, you're too vague, or you're too broad, it's going to be challenging for people to sign up or know if this is for them or not. So just like when I say, hey, when you get to your website, like if you go to sellingcoaching.com, the first thing you're going to see, you'll see my picture and you'll see my headline, helping coaches transition to a full-time business, right? You need to know as a visitor, however you came there, you need to know immediately if this is for you or not. So same thing with this course, with whatever you're offering for this group coaching program, is when you're marketing this, these people need to know, however they're being exposed to it, face-to-face, virtually, flyers, online, ads, whatever it is, people helping you, they need to know immediately if it's for them or not. So if you've got this great thing, create the life of your dreams. It's like, okay, that's great. Like, who doesn't want to create the life of their dreams? But like, it doesn't draw me in. It doesn't get me to, like, metaphorically walking through the bookstore, and it doesn't get me to pick the book off the shelf. Maybe some people, if they're in that space where they're like, oh, my life sucks, or I just need to just change something. But again, we want to get more specific. So I want you to think about, who does this course help with what specifically? And then from there, we figure out, okay, well, where do these people reside? So especially if you don't have an audience of your own, the other philosophy is hey, Jeff, I don't want to wait 2 years to run a course. I want to do it now. Great. So even especially then, you need to know more specifically who this course is for and what you're helping them with specifically, because now what you've got to do is you've got to do your marketing to enroll people, meaning the reason I say if you wait till you have an audience, it's somewhat easier to fill the seats is because you've already got a group of fans. You've already got your tribe. You've already got a group of people that you've built value for yourself and your services because you've done calls like this. You've done weekly events. You've sent emails to them for X amount of time. They already know you. They already trust you. They already like you. They already respect you and your information. That's why they're a fan of yours. That's why they're following you. That's why they're already consuming, if you will, your free information, like I do on these live events, these live calls. And that's why I said get on my email community, because I want you to benefit from that stuff as well and see how I build that relationship with people. So it's much easier to convert people to a course like this when you've already built a relationship with them. So, but if you're not there and you're marketing this earlier, you've got to know the who does course help with what specifically. So I know where they are, where are they located on offline, so I can get in front of them with a relevant and specific title. So now they're relying on that, whether they're interested in or not in enrolling, but learning a little bit more about it. And that's where, okay, now they're going to read the description. Now they'll look at more of the page or watch a video or whatever you have on that. Now maybe they'll have a conversation with you and then enroll in the program. And that's the biggest aspect of enrolling people. So we've got to know who we're targeting. And the more specific you can get of what you're offering with the outcome of a program is going to be helpful. So in other words, even with a group program that I mentioned earlier, live sales conversations, like livesalesconversations.com, where I help coaches convert their paying leads into clients or their leads into clients. That's a very specific outcome. And now obviously we have some other topics we talk about in there, but the main focus in an ideal sense is, hey, bring your current leads to this call, and I'm going to, on a live setting, I'm going to help you, hey, tell me about that, and I'm going to help you with an approach and teach you like how to approach this and follow through to the end so you can get a paying client. So not only can I help you now to do it, but you can actually start to learn how to do it yourself because you need that skill set, right? That's a very specific outcome. Before that, as I mentioned, I had a group program, but it was just the same thing as I do like with everything, is helping coaches transition to a full-time business. So as you can see, it was a very broad topic. It was an ongoing thing, it wasn't like a 6-week program. It was an ongoing program, but I didn't get a lot of traction, and it was actually hard to market even to an existing audience that had a need for that because it was too big, it was too general and too vague, even though for my headline, it's pretty specific what I'm doing, helping coaches with. But then when you go down to a program, that general headline, if you will, is too vague for them, right? They need to have something more specific, like helping coaches convert their leads into paying clients. Oh, that's either for me or not, right? Or if I'm helping coaches, create an online marketing system to, create an email list to create it, and to stay in front of your audience and build trust over time. That would be a specific thing that I'm doing. So I would help them over 6 weeks, get their email list set up, get it all structured out, come up with their own weekly live event and structure the whole program there. Like that's a very specific outcome. So what I'm saying for you is that I want you to think about your program and saying, let's specifically structure it towards a specific outcome. And again, I'm thinking this from a marketing sense, and how's he going to be successful with this? A lot of coaches, and this is where I started off as well, is I didn't think about the selling aspect, right? That's why my business is called Selling Coaching, right? And my headline is what it is, but I focus on the selling aspects. As I'm delivering this information today, I'm delivering it from the mindset of like, well, what do I know that's going to help them actually be successful in getting people there? So when I say get specific about it, it's just only going to help you identify where these people are, and then it's going to help them better identify for themselves, is this for me or not, so then they can convert them. In terms of filling the classes, in terms of fill these, is what I've found through experience is even doing everything that I've said to this point, meaning whether you've got an existing audience you're marketing to, or knowing where they are specifically and who you're helping them with and what this course is helping them with specifically, even with all that stuff, how you're going to convert the people is not necessarily just by putting up a thing on eventbrite.com, putting up, running an ad on Facebook, doing Facebook posts, putting it at local businesses with flyers, just sending an email out to your database. You're not going to convert people. You're not going to just send that out there and all of a sudden you're just going to get this wave of people signing up and registering. If you get anybody to enroll in your course just by doing that, consider that a bonus. This is the mindset I want to give you. And it will happen. Just don't rely on it. If you rely on that, you're going to get one or two people at best, and that's it. If not nobody, especially if you don't have much of an audience to begin with. So in the beginning, you've got to, in other words, how do you do it? You've got to make a list of people. You've got to say, okay, who do I know? Or who do I know that might know somebody specifically that might benefit from this specific course? You've got to literally make a list on like Microsoft Excel, get their contact information. You got to literally call them up. And you got to say, hey, Marty, how's it going? We haven't talked in a while, or I know we're working together, or whatever it is. But, hey, listen, I know you've been going through X, Y, and Z, and you've had some challenges with this, and I've got this new course I'm offering, and I thought of you. I thought it might be something you might want to take a closer look at based on what you've been going through. I'm wondering if you're open to taking a closer look at it to see if it's something that you are willing to do or you want to take a part in. It's an approach like that. And so it's getting those specific things. It's making that list, and it's following up those people via phone and email. Again, don't just rely on sending people emails. It's getting on the phone with these people. If not saying, who do you know, and proactively getting to the point where you're actually enrolling people, where you're getting to the end of that conversation, and Marty's on the phone again, like, you know what, Jeff, this actually looks good. I'd like to do it. And you'd be like, okay, great. So you're ready to move forward and sign up, payment, and then get going on that? And they're like, absolutely. So you take the payment over the phone, or however you take payment. Ideally, you take it over the phone right then and there. So it's because, again, you don't have anyone signed up for it or enrolled in it until the money's in your bank account. Just like I always tell people, you don't have a new client until the money's in your bank account. So just because someone says, yeah, you know what, I'd love to do this course with you, doesn't mean you should hang up the phone or see the email and celebrate, yes, I got someone enrolled. When they've actually paid for it and the money's in your bank account, now you've got a participant in your course, right? So that's what we're going for. So that's why I'm talking about filling the seats. It's creating that list. It's getting out there. It's talking to the people. It's helping them decide, is this something that they want to do or not? And then if they want to do it, it's taking the payment for it, however you can take that payment for it. And then saying who else you know that, and hopefully they can help fill the seats for you in that respect. So that's kind of some of the strategy to get you up to some of the details. A lot of the questions which I'll answer now, how long are the programs for? How do I structure it? The duration, the pricing, how many people do I take? Things like that. All that is useless unless you heed all the information that I just shared with you there. And that's why I wanted to build the foundation of it right there for you. And now we can start talking about some of those details, because once that's done, now we can start figuring out, okay, well, what are those details? And here's what I'll share in some of those details in terms of structuring the program. How long do I offer it for? In terms of how many weeks, let's say, and then with each session, how long is that session? The first thing you want to consider is well, who is my audience, and what are we covering in this? And usually what I find is initially coaches who run, if they're doing their first group program, the information that they want to deliver in this program is way too much. It's way too much. And one thing you have to realize is that when people are going through this program, as much as people are motivated to make a change in their life or do something positive for themselves and take this into account for yourself, as much as we're motivated to do something, there's only so much we can do. There's only so much we can handle. Just because we enrolled in this course doesn't mean we can do 90 minutes every week for 8 weeks. That's ridiculous. And then show up for 90 minutes and then have all this homework or this follow-up, from there. The reality is like they can only handle so much. And if you're doing something like that, you've got to really scale back on what you're offering, because a lot of people think like, oh, I've got to offer so much, because if I'm going to charge whatever I'm going to charge for it, a couple $100 or whatever it is, I gotta pack the crap out of it with value, and I'm going to offer this, and it's going to include a one-on-one session, and I'm going to have homework and video tutorials that go along with it, and it's just like, and I'm going to go to the house and give them a massage to top it off. I'm joking, obviously. But the point is like they feel they got to pack all this stuff in there. But what happens is, from experience on the other end of it, because I was there too at one point, is I'm going to give my child just because I need to give more value. The fact is they get overwhelmed and they feel unsuccessful because they can't keep up with all this stuff. So, cut it down, pare it down, keep it simple. Like with my group program, it's like I got a call each week. It's an hour. If you can show up or you don't show up, it's not like you're missing anything. It's like bring yourself to the call. and have some questions. Listen to it. I've got the recordings there. If you've got a question in between, post it in the private Facebook group and I'll get back to you on it. Like, that's it. It's if you show up or not, it's like, that's awesome. I've got the recordings available for you, and that's the program. So it's really simple, but you can get a lot of value from it, and you can work at it with your own pace. And if you don't show up for a few weeks, and you haven't told me about it, I'm gonna follow up with you and say, hey, is everything okay? But other than that, like, that's the program, and it works. So when going about thinking about this, paring it back, keeping it simple, if you're meeting on a weekly basis, just make sure that in between the calls, you're not giving them too much other than maybe a few questions to be thinking about, to do in between. If it's requiring, if the course you want to offer requires more work in between, maybe consider doing it every other week. Just the thing that I found is every other week, that 2 weeks in between the class, it can feel like a very long time. So what I'd recommend, if I can narrow it down to help you out, is if you're doing a group coaching program, in terms of duration, I would offer anything between 4 and 6 weeks. I don't care if it's 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, but I would cap it at 6 weeks. Because anything longer than that, honestly, it just gets long. And you can get dropout, lack of follow through, unless it's super, super specific and you've got a really engaged audience. Then how about this? You've got less people at a much higher price point. Yeah, you could go to an 8 weeks or something like that. But even at that point, if I'm just giving you from experience, 4 to 6 weeks, meet on a weekly basis. I would meet for no more than an hour. And the reason I would meet for I can't speak today, no more than an hour, is because when you get into 90 minutes, number one, it's long. It's hard for a lot of people to put that amount of time aside, depending on when you're offering it for. And then the reality is at the most, hopefully you can get 4 or 5 people to sign up. But if reality hits and you get 1 or 2 people signing up, and this has happened many times with myself in the past and with clients that I've worked with, is you've got like 2 people and you're with them for 90 minutes. And it's long. Or 1 person signs up and you're with them for 90 minutes. And now it's just like, and you can coach someone, but even a coaching session for 90 minutes, number one, it's exhausting for both people. So it just doesn't work. And then at that point, you're probably going to want to scale it back. So keep it an hour. It's achievable. People can do it. It's not that overwhelming. You can still accomplish a lot in an hour time frame. In 4 to 6 weeks, whatever you pick. And again, if you're just starting off, just start off with the 4 weeks. Keep it simple, so you're not as overwhelmed yourself content-wise. You can keep it simple, and then if it's really that good and you get that good, great, run it again. And then after that, if you've got that many people, where people are signing up, great. We'll start a second time. If you're thinking, oh my God, I can't believe the amount of people that want to register for this. Now I've got 20 people. You know what? Start another class at a different time and enroll there, or break the class up. So that's a good case scenario if you run into that problem. And I hope you do. But the reality is, in the beginning, that's not our problem. It's like, oh my God, I've got to get people enrolled. So 4 to 6 weeks, no more than an hour each. In terms of structuring it, the most simple economical structure is using freeconferencecall.com, like I use for these live calls. Any free conference call line. Freeconferencecall.com is the one I've used for years. It's very simple. So people just call in. It's no cost to you. You can record it for free. And that's all that you need right then and there. A step up from there would be zoom.us. I believe that's the I was going to say zip code. That's the domain name for that. So Zoom is a fantastic platform. I would only use Zoom for paid programs. Like, I wouldn't use Zoom for something like these free calls. It's a video-based conference system. You can also use that for free up to 40 minutes and actually use all of its features, like the recording. It's a video-based call, like I said. So that's a great way to do it. And the paid version, like if you're going over 40 minutes, which I would recommend for a paid group coaching program, like I said, up to an hour, I think it's after taxes, it's like $16 a month. So it's not going to break you, but it's super reliable, and it's fantastic because you get to see other people. You get chat features. You get to record it right to your computer. You can share screens. I mean, it's fantastic. I would definitely recommend that being the way to go. But from a budgetary standpoint, even sometimes $16 a month, it's an added cost. So do a freeconferencecall.com. There's a lot of other ways to do them, but those are the two ways that I recommend right now to keep it simple for yourself, and structuring it in terms of duration. And it also creates a great atmosphere for it. In terms of structuring it, I would consider, how about this? Your structure is going to depend on the amount of people that you have enrolled. And I'll say it like this. In a group format for 4 to 6 weeks, to give some people some individual time, but also have some, some group conversations as well, I would say between 8 and 10 people would be a good cap for you. Also, it's a realistic number in terms of enrolling people, because if you can enroll more than 10 people in a program and you're like, oh, I have no doubt that I can do that, well, first, I'd like to see you walk that talk to begin with. But if you know that you can do that, then I would either have multiple times you offer it at, or once you get over 10 people and you're doing a group program where they're all enrolled, typically what happens is the price point has to drop a little bit because you've got more people, and that more people means less individual time, right? And if from a price point, less people means more individual time, even though they're still sharing it. And at that point, obviously, the price point can go up a little bit from there. So I know that's general, but because I can't work with you specifically, unless you were hiring me, I can help you out specifically. But that's the general rule, is that obviously the more people, generally the price point will drop a little bit from there per head, because there's less individual work you can do with them from a structure standpoint. It's more of a lecture format. It's more of a seminar format with maybe some open discussions. And a video format, you can handle more people in an open discussion, because obviously not everyone's going to participate, but you can also gauge people in what they're doing from facial expressions or gestures from there. But in general, you can handle more people, so the price point goes down because less individual time. And then conversely, if you've got 5 people, you can charge higher because they're going to get a lot more individual time. That's where you go from there. If I were going to help you there, I would say think about 4 to 6 weeks. Limit it to, let's say, 8 to 10 people. Price point on that, and there's 2 theories you can go with your price point. You can have what I would consider like a normal price point for a 4-week program, anywhere from $99 to maybe $150. 6-week program, you can get up towards the $200 mark, and that's just what I would say a normal price point, an average price point that I don't think anyone should balk at. Even for 4 weeks at $200, I think $99 is on the cheap side, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a range. Call it $100 to $200. It's anywhere from $25 to $50 a call. So that's not bad. And if you got a decent group of 10 people, that's not bad, for 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, you can earn some decent money there. Then you get into like that next level tier pricing, where you could go to like, $395, $400 to how about this, $400 to $500 from a price point perspective. So you could do a 6-week program, for $499, something like that, $397, something like that. So, and again, I don't think it's expensive per se, but for the average person, what that's going to determine is how specific your information is. And that's, again, not to be general with you, but if you're talking about a very specific topic, that's going to lend itself to be a lot more valuable. And something that's more valuable to somebody that has a very specific outcome, more value means you could charge more for it. Because where else can they go to get this? If you're just talking about, hey, 6 weeks to learn, create the life of your dreams, use a vision board, and you know what I mean? Let's the power of positive thought, to create or manifest the life of your dreams. Like, that's still so general. So if I'm charging $500 for that, it becomes pricey, not because it's pricey, because a lot of people aren't going to see the value in spending the $500 for that, right? But if you're getting down to that $99 price point, now that might warrant it just because the topic's more of a vague topic. But if I'm saying, convert your leads into paying clients, that's a very specific topic. And if I'm just doing a 6-week program or a 4-week program on that, I could charge more of like the $400 to $500 mark because I'm teaching you a very specific skill set, which is going to give you a very specific outcome. That's going to have a very specific return on investment. You get one client out of that, that's going to, more than pay for not only that course, but itself in the long run. So I'm trying to show you in terms of structure and specificity in terms of what we can charge for those things as well. So that's kind of like the general umbrella of it all. In terms of knowing what you can offer, designing how you can structure it, the duration of it, how long you offer it for, and then the last thing I'll just say, in wrapping this up, is just some of the skills of building the community and getting people involved. It's definitely easier on a video-based call because you can see people, you can see their level of engagement. But whether it's a video-based call or even on a conference call like this, especially in that format, it's knowing who your participants are, and it's just making sure every step of the way, whether they're actively participating verbally or vocally during the sessions, or if they're not, it's making sure you're staying in touch with them in between the calls. And with whatever, if it's just simple with via email, or like I said, I've got a private Facebook group to go along with mine. And I only do that because it's an ongoing course. If it was a 4 to 6 week, I wouldn't necessarily have a private Facebook group just for that, although it's not necessarily a bad idea. I'm just making sure that the people are engaged, that they're receiving great information from it. If they miss a few calls, or if they had a few calls where they didn't say much or didn't participate much, I'm just checking in with them, or they missed a call or something like that. I'm just checking in saying, hey, making sure everything's okay. Like I said earlier, last tip would be, recording it, obviously, recording it and making those recordings available for them. This way, if people have a schedule issue, or they end up missing a call, or they just want to review it for that matter, having those recordings available for them is a great benefit. I wouldn't charge any more for that. It's just a benefit of being a part of the program.